Do you ever look back on previous years and get the strange feeling that your brain was turned off? Like you somehow managed to make it through without being aware of what it is you were doing? Like thinking back makes you realize that finally now your brain has switched on for the first time and it's a wonder you made it here today? That happens to me every year. It's happening to me now thinking about this last year of training, my second full year training my back every day, and comparing it to the first year. I can remember thinking I had it all figured out when I first started this thing, and I suppose I should give myself some credit. I wasn't a beginner by any means, but looking back now, I can't help but feel I was wandering around in the dark. In another year, I know I'll look back and think the same about this one. That just seems to be the way of things. But looking back at year 2 of daily back training, I think this is the year I finally came into my element. 3 things changed during this last year. The first and most important thing is that I finally truly made heavy sandbag lifting my priority. Up until this last year, I was much more interested in stone lifting, if I'm being honest. Of course, stones and sandbags are similar, and I did still lift sandbags frequently and with intensity. In no way was I new to sandbags at the start of this year or anything like that, but switching my focus, realizing I cared more about sandbags as the end goal rather than using them as a means to a different end, stone lifting, actually had some very profound effects. Maybe it's because I typically lift sandbags inside my home gym where I have access to loud music and never have to worry about anyone interrupting me. Maybe it's the forgiving nature of a relatively soft sandbag that somehow tricks my subconscious mind into taking down its walls, allowing me to push harder than I could with solid rock. Maybe I just finally got my act together. It's tough to tell the exact reason, but focusing on sandbags has just felt more like training. When comparing the two, stone lifting has always felt more closely related to hiking or meditation than it has to training. In no way do I mean this as a bad thing. Stones are awesome, and I made some serious gains working with them. And perhaps I'd feel differently if I had access to stones in a controlled environment. But for whatever reason, sandbags just feel more closely related to working towards a heavy deadlift or squat than they do to wandering the woods in search of adventure. I really hope no one takes that the wrong way. I'll always love stone lifting and I'll never stop. If I could only choose one form of exercise for the rest of my life, it would be stones, just for the endless variety and the excitement that comes with solving the puzzle. I've tried to rewrite this thing 20 times now because I keep thinking it sounds like I'm talking in a negative way towards stones or saying sandbags are somehow better. 2 things I don't actually believe. It's just where I'm at after this last year. Changing my focus made me double down on improving. I have a long way to go, but every day I get closer to lifting that fabled double bodyweight sandbag, as well as reaching my goal of shouldering 300 pounds. This changed everything. I've become significantly stronger since dialing in my programming, and things that were once out of reach have become a part of the daily routine. The changes to body composition I've experienced since working with truly heavy sandbags have been incredible. The second major change was that I put my barbells into storage and started training exclusively with Sandbags and Calisthenics. I'd been close to that for a long time, but in previous years, I still did some work with barbells, trying to improve heavy squats more than anything. Switching over entirely opened a lot of new doors. It gave me much more room to work with sandbags, and my body just felt better. Barbells, iron is great, and it works, but it does take it out of you more than sandbags do. That's how it is for me, at least. I still think of a comment I had on one of my videos a while back. Lifting sandbags versus lifting barbells is like jumping on sand versus concrete. That was the comment. Sure, you can jump higher on the concrete, and you might be able to go for longer in a single session, but that fatigue cuts down to the bone and takes longer to recover from. Jumping on sand, however, may wear you out quickly, and you might not be able to jump as high, but after a day or two, you're ready to get back to it. Switching over entirely to sandbags and sometimes stones for my heavy lifting has allowed me to lift heavy with a much higher frequency. The third big change was with this YouTube channel. For the first time in over a decade, I have something that comes before my own training. Because I've started working so hard on making videos for this channel, I don't often have endless time for training like I used to. For that reason, many of my workouts have been under 20 minutes. My 2 or 3 sandbag workouts every week are always at least an hour long, but the calisthenics circuits I do on the other days are usually only between 10 and 20 minutes. Of course, if you've seen the way I train calisthenics, you'll know those are an intense, non-stop, push and beyond limits kind of 20 minutes made up of hundreds of reps, but still, the overall time I've spent training this year has been less than the previous year. I believe that's been for the best. Keeping the workouts shorter means I come into each one feeling more energized and ready to go. It's not so bad given everything day in and day out when you know you only have to go for 20 minutes. Because I know a lot of you are interested in the exact program I followed, the rough outline is like this. Heavy sandbag lifting 2 to 3 times a week, calisthenics circuit training every day I'm not lifting sandbags, usually lasting only 20 minutes or less, and direct work for my neck 2 to 3 times a week at the end of my calisthenics workouts. I try to deload every 5 weeks, and if I'm feeling run down during the week or don't have much time, I'll replace my circuit training with greasing the groove pull-ups, done randomly throughout the day, usually accumulating about 100 reps. If I'm very run down, I might do some high rep band good mornings instead to aid with recovery. Usually at least once every 2 weeks or so, I'll need to replace one of my workouts with grease in the groove or active recovery. I should also mention my weight. Most of the year I sat at just about 160 pounds. I did briefly manage to bulk up to 167, but as of making this video, I'm at the end of a cut sitting at 150, and I'm the leanest I've ever been in my life as far as I can tell. Initially, it wasn't my plan to cut down, but with the summer came an increased activity level and a decreased appetite, and eventually I figured I'd just lean into it. Getting down to about 157 happened on its own, but it did take some effort on my part to make it all the way to 150. I have had to work pretty hard to get this lean. I'm 5'8" for reference. This hasn't been the best thing for max strength, but I do feel great, and strength comes back quickly. Once you build it the first time, it's yours to keep in a way. The cut has been worth it in the grand scheme of things, considering it lined up so nicely with this 2-year mark, and I can finally properly show the back gains I've made from all the training, even though I really have no idea how to properly pose my back for a photo. I do believe I passed the body fat percentage threshold for optimal relative strength. I believe my relative strength was better at 160 than it is now at 150, and I will probably bulk back up just to continue pushing the sandbag strength, but it's been nice being lean for a while, even if it has forced me to lower the intensity a bit recently. That leads me on to the results I've seen over this last year. It would be easy to assume I didn't gain any muscle, considering I stayed at just about the same body weight the entire time, but probably 6 months ago now, I started to notice a real change in my appearance. Months of truly heavy sandbags and calisthenic circuits and nothing else had a very noticeable effect on my body. I was getting comments on my videos about it too. I just started to look more dense. There's no other way to describe it, like my muscles reached a maturity level they'd never had before. I'd experienced something like this a while back after working with odd objects, but truly pushing the weights took this to the extreme level. One of my good friends here on YouTube, Florian Puhani, mentioned in a comment that he's had a similar experience. For reference, he was referring to a caption I had in an older video where I talked about sandbags improving muscle density. I was in favor of the idea in the video, but offered a counter argument because there's always that possibility I'm wrong. My caption was this: muscle maturity plays a major role in the perception of muscle density. You also don't see many new lifters lifting sandbags. Therefore, it's possible that rather than sandbags themselves causing density, it only appears this way because sandbag training typically attracts lifters with more experience. This is what Florian had to say in response to that. About the caption, it's always wise to think about alternative explanations, of course, but in my case, I can definitely debunk the pre-existing muscle maturity and density theory. I've taken up sandbag and other odd objects lifting only late October last year on my 53rd birthday after almost 4 decades of mostly bodybuilding style training and a bit of calisthenics in the last couple of years. So it's safe to say I've had the majority of my muscle mass and also a considerable level of muscle maturity before. And still, especially my inner back feels much denser now compared to half a year ago, and my glutes and hamstrings have at least regained most of their size from my younger and more leg training enthusiastic days. Also, objectively, I've gained a lot of strength, although mostly in the awkward object lifts themselves, so technique may have played a role in that. I can't imagine a better source to back this up. Said plainly, Florian is massive. He actually posted a picture of himself with Eric Bugenhagen, and they looked pretty similar in size to give you an idea. He's a smart guy too. If you haven't already, I highly recommend you go check out his YouTube channel, Creative Training Hacks. He just invented a completely new way to train your biceps with pelican curls, and I think you'll like it. Back to the changes in appearance I experienced this last year. Call it what you want. Maybe I recomped, it doesn't really matter. I got significantly stronger, my endurance and strength endurance with calisthenics improved greatly, and my body looks better. All of that said, it's time to answer the big questions. Is daily training necessary? Will I continue? And would I recommend it? Necessary? No. During my first 6 months of daily back training, I did seem to build muscle faster than normal, which indicates that the back is probably capable of handling a higher volume of work than the typical 10 to 20 sets per week recommendation, but after that, the gains continued on at a reasonable pace. I don't believe there's much difference in size or strength gains training every day or 3 times a week. It just comes down to what you prefer. There might be a slight edge to training with short daily workouts because every rep you do is done at a higher level because fewer of your reps are done in a fatigued state since you start completely fresh more often. But realistically, I believe the gains are pretty similar either way. That leads to the second part. Will I continue training every day, and do I recommend it? This one is an easy yes. There's more to life than making gains. Daily training in many ways fixed my brain. I used to be plagued by endless nervous energy. I've always been the type to thrive and take control when things don't go as planned. I'm great in stressful situations. It's like I was made for them. But the normal daily routine where nothing goes wrong, I suck at that. My mind doesn't allow for a truly comfortable existence. Comfort without struggle will never be something I can have. I believe this comfort part of it is the same for most everyone. For 99% of people, it's very difficult to feel true comfort and happiness without some real struggle happening beforehand. There is no light without dark. You wouldn't know white unless there was black. You can't know comfort without struggle. Daily training is a way to force the point. Rather than going through life stressed out waiting for difficult things to happen, trying to force that unattainable existence of never-ending comfort, just make yourself go do something hard and you'll be good to go. Daily training, the daily planned doing of difficult things, makes life more comfortable. It calms that unrelenting storm happening in the mind and brings you closer to that place of calm tranquility. If we take a step back, that storm is actually a pretty good thing to have. It's probably how we kept our families safe in times long since past, how we got the food and made the shelter. We are meant for doing things, but modern life doesn't have much need for any of that, and without an outlet, we're prone to going insane from the lack of purpose. Training every day is a way to take care of that. For that reason, I'll never stop. I will not go back to those days of restless agitation. I think most anyone would benefit. And that's pretty much it. This has hands down been the most productive training year of my life, and I'll keep going as long as I can. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.